Okay, we might get started. Good afternoon, or is it good morning, depending on which time zone you're in. I'm really pleased to welcome you all to AI, Aging and Asia. Now, we have people online today from across the regions across Asia. We've got people from India, China, Hong Kong, Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, Philippines and Taiwan, all online today to talk about this really important message about rethinking HR before the future rethinks you. I'm really pleased to welcome you today. My name is Lorraine Saloom, and I will be the moderator for today's session. Big thank you to FutureHR and HR Asia for facilitating this particular webinar with some amazing, and I have to say to you, some really impressive leaders from across Asia to join us to have these conversations with us today. So what are we talking about? We will be exploring how HR leaders can prepare for the future shaped by ageing populations. We'll be talking about AI integration and multi-generational workforces, especially in Asia. So as I said, we're joined by three incredible panelists today. And so let's start by welcoming each of them and also getting a brief introduction. So I'd like to introduce you to Yati Hisham, Linda Wang and Marcus Bedmalia. Now over to you, Yati. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and experience?
Hi, thank you, Lorraine. And I'm very happy to be here. My name is Yati. I am currently the HR lead for Accenture Operations in Malaysia, where we support 7,000 of our colleagues to deliver value to our clients every day. I've been with Accenture for the last 6 years. Before that, I've been in other organizations. I have roughly about 25 years of work experience spanning human resources, business development, managed services, as well as service management, among others. I particularly enjoy my stint in HR the most because it really fuels my passion, which is to help other people succeed, especially our fellow colleagues and employees. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. I think I can't wait to hear about your experiences with the generational dynamics in the workforce. Thanks so much for joining us today. Marcus, over to you.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, my name is Marcus. I work for, excuse me, Sinamas Agribusiness and Food. So I work for, even though it's an Indonesian company originally, but we exist globally as well in another 12 countries. And I'm blessed with the team that I have, the leaders that I have as well, and as well as the shareholders, because technology, AI, we are very supported to implement that in HR, and looking forward also for the discussion today.
Great stuff, Marcus. It's really great to hear that you've got great leadership, which means that you'll bring some fantastic insights to today's discussion. Welcome on board. Linda.
Yes, thank you, Lorraine. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. I am from EY GDS, or EY Global Delivery Services in Philippines. So EY GDS, it's a global delivery network supporting the EY member firm and EY clients. In Philippines, we have an employee size of 5,500 and more. So interestingly, now we are talking about aging AI. I looked into our company demography. So more than half of the populations are Gen Z, and we have the rest majority are millennial, and we also have less than 10% of Gen X. So it's a good mix, and I'm very excited to be here listening to the best practices or what we have in mind from our peer companies, and our colleagues also would like to share our thoughts there. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thanks, Linda, and I can't wait to hear how the generational impacts you in the workplace as we have our discussion today. So welcome to the three of you, and welcome to everybody online. As I said, we have over 200 or up to 200 people registered for today's session. from regions across Asia, and we're very lucky to have 3 panelists with some dynamic and different experiences in different organisations in terms of what they're representing today. Now, let's kick off. Let's start the conversation. So, as you all know, Asia is ageing faster than any other region in the world. Now, that shift impacts absolutely everything. It impacts talent strategy, it impacts succession planning, benefits, and career paths. For a HR professional, it could be a nightmare, couldn't it? It could. It could. Now, what we've got to do here, now, if you think about what we're here to do, we're thinking about how do we rethink HR before the future rethinks you. What we're going to talk about on our first topic today is the longevity shift. Let's dive into how HR leaders can rethink workforce strategy in light of this demographic transformation. Now, I might kick off with you, Marcus. You talked to us a little bit about your experiences and the kinds of leaders that you've got. Have you seen differences in how different generations respond to things like feedback, recognition, or leadership style? And, now that you've kind of, thought about that a little bit, I'd love you to share your experiences about, well, then how do you manage it?
Yes, thank you, Lorraine. It is true, a very interesting moment actually. As a HR for quite some time, I never imagined we are in this situation because the disruptions come into 2 aspects. One is the, like you mentioned, is the aging population, and now we are not talking about generation gap anymore, but we need to talk with this movement is also the generation synergy. That is my belief. And with the lower trend of birth rate, if I see for the past 6 decades, for example, the fertility rate is reduced by more than 50%. So for sure, we cannot talk about replacement, right? Even though some of the highly populated countries themselves also reduce quite a lot. And with the AI, if I observe AI, I think is still a toddler, right? It's only like being famous or being known to people in 2023. But the disruption, I see that is even worse than the change from landline to mobile phone, the PC to laptop. I think we never imagined on this kind of things as well. And for sure, the generations that we have, because in Sinamas, we have quite a lot of Sinamas agribusiness, especially we have quite a lot of loyal people. So practically, we have 4 generations among our 100,000 employees that we have. We are managing. So the beauty that we face, the good thing, perhaps that's why I say we are blessed, because our shareholders himself and herself as well are very supportive for us to become more proactive in this, because we don't want to only generate AI literate employees in all generations. But what we are trying to target as a HR as well, work hand in hand with our IT system and the IT group, information system, the innovation system, the strategic team as well, and with the shareholders, is how we want to bring our employees at least towards the AI native. Because I think soon with the Gen Alpha coming up in 10 years' time, if we are not preparing our employees, including the senior, mature employees, I don't want to say old, but the mature employees, the leaders, they know that they will be lagging, and they know they also need to learn. But as much as the capacity is perhaps limited due to the different hard drive that we have, we are advanced generation, like I need to consider myself towards that advanced generation. We need to leverage on the younger generation. That's why in HR, our challenge with my team in Indonesia as well as globally is how we generate the generation synergy to be able to improve the literacy of the AI for each of the individuals as much as possible, to prepare also the coming in of the new generations who will be very not only savvy, but I consider as AI natives in that sense.
So Marcus, one of the things that you talked about there, and I really loved this whole concept of moving away from generational gaps and kind of talking about generational gaps and talking about generation synergy instead. One of the things that you talked about there was how important the support of your leadership was in that. Yep. Just from that perspective, how do you ensure that generational inclusion becomes a source of innovation? You've talked about that a little bit, not just another HR checkbox?
Yep. It's a very good point. It's a challenge for sure. As much as our shareholders are very supportive, of course, in whether it is an initiative, we would like to implement a new platform, or also in our learning and development that we provide online. We always need to improve it. And with all those investments, we become more and more required or demanded actually, directly, intangible and intangibly as well, to provide our ROI. So we really need to, every memo that we submit, every letter, every request that we submit, we always need to provide what is the ROI, whether it is in terms of productivity, in terms of the impact to the manpower costs, in terms of also the ROI to the overall generations, and also the future towards the business sustainability. So these are the things I think is becoming more and more challenging. It's not like normal annual budgeting anymore. It's become closely like, it's not half yearly, become quarterly exercise. It's not annual anymore, because the in terms of the technology, we need to catch up, as well as we need to be prepared all the time.
So Marcus, one of the things that you've said there, which is a really good point here though, is it's not just about, I mean, the leadership can actually see the importance for this, for sustainability as well. So this whole concept of generational synergy and the need to not see that information technology as a disruption, like you talked about earlier, but actually as something that will drive return on investment. And so that link to return on investment is what's really important for HR. I might throw to Linda here. So Linda, your thoughts, just, and I think in terms of the different generations and generational inclusion, what do you see?
Yes, we did notice that the different generations, they respond to the feedback, recognition differently. Though there are a lot of things in common, but there are differences, especially for the Gen Z. A couple of things stand out for them. One is they value individuality. And a second one is a kind of sense of instant gratification. So they want to be recognized timely or immediately if they did something well. So Marcus just mentioned about reward recognition platform. Actually, in UIGDS, we recently also revamped our reward recognition systems. So it's going to be giving the authority to each other. The counselors, the peers can give the recognition from the system. The system is called Extraordinary You. It cut across the 9 locations where the UIGDS is operating now, and everybody can recognize their people. And when they have triggered one recognition, it can be tangible. It can be award, cash related. It also can be intangible, e-card with the gratitude, the words there. So within 24 hours, the award will flow. And we also make it available to be integrated with employees' LinkedIn, or if they want to post it in their social network, it's easily doable. So that's the way how we also want to adjust ourselves, catering to the needs of our different generations of people, to make the things, the HR practices and policies, or even tools, relevant. So that's what we did.
Fantastic, Linda. And so what you're talking about there is not just the advancement of information technology, but really thinking about how you can use those tools to address and actually go back to the point that Marcus was making, which was around generational synergy. Really keen to get your views now, Yati. What's happening in your organisation, and what are some of the things that you're picking up around how HR leaders can rethink workforce strategy because of the demographic transformation?
Thanks, Lorraine. And I want to touch on one of the points that Linda mentioned when it comes to demographics, right? In Accenture, the demographic is also quite similar. More than half of our workforce are amongst Gen Zs as well as millennials, right? And when it comes to our HR policies, we need to be cognizant of this fact, because different generations bring about different assets, but they also have different needs. That's for sure, right? I like the example that Linda brought about when it comes to feedback and rewards, because at the end of the day, the policy that we have, it needs to embrace the different needs of the different groups within our workforce. But nonetheless, I think it can be quite overwhelming if we try to pivot too often, too frequent. And in Accenture, and this is something that I truly believe in, is that we are anchored by our core values and principles, right? Because no matter where we are in what organization, the demographics that we have, in Accenture, we are anchored by principles around respect for the individual, right? And within that statement alone, that means we recognize the needs of the different groups within our population, regardless of gender, regardless of life stages, um, and all the other unique beliefs and needs that our people have. So it translates into the flexibility that we put into our work methods, for instance. Not all of our roles can have that flexibility. I admit to that. But at the end of the day, we try to ensure that where it is possible, we want to extend that flexibility because especially for certain groups within our workforce. And I'll take a very simple example, young mothers, for instance, right? It is very essential for them to have that flexibility to care for their children, to respond to maybe certain family needs and emergencies. And it applies to fathers as well, right? And one of the things that I'm truly proud of is the fact that the benefits that we have in Accenture Malaysia is truly market leading, whereby we have paternity benefits that extends up to 60 days, which is above and beyond what is mandated by laws and so on, right? So we want to recognize that. We want to ensure that our people feel that they can grow within the organization. And this reflects in not only our ability to craft broad and all encompassing policies, but also in the way that we apply those policies and flex it accordingly to meet the needs of our people.
Fantastic, Yati. Now, I'm just going to ask you a quick question here. You talked about, and it's a really interesting point, recognizing the assets and the needs, and you know that translates into the demographics. I might actually throw this to the broader group. We've all heard the Gen Alpha and kind of the younger generation, how hard they, or the rhetoric around how they may be hard to engage. But then they may bring the tech fluency that we're all looking for, and you know, and being kind of pushed into being able to support kind of some of the other generations in their capabilities around these areas. What do you think? Do you believe that they're going to be harder to engage, or do you think they'll bring the empathy and tech fluency to achieve what Marcus was talking about earlier around generational synergy?
Yes.
I'll throw it to whoever would like to respond to that.
I'll take that one. And agreed, Marcus really coined it nicely, right, in the phrase of generational synergy. Because no doubt the younger generation, they have a higher level of tech fluency. Tools such as AI, ChatGPT, anything and everything that comes in, it comes natural for them. So in that sense, they are quicker to embrace the shifts in the tools and technologies that we apply, right? And in Accenture, we want to be at the forefront of technology, and the fear can be real, that's for sure, especially for some of our people who probably have been very attuned to certain ways of doing things, right? Even for me, I'll admit this, it is human nature. We don't like change, right? But at the same time, we need to reframe the way we perceive change, turning it into opportunities for us to grow beyond our comfort zone. So, coming back to your point, are there friction? Are there conflict? It's not, how shall we say, sometimes it's a matter of perceiving certain topics, right? And we always advocate open communication. We want to acknowledge whatever concerns that people bring to the table. We have clear path in order to discuss those concerns. But at the same time, we always want to bring people together to recognize the way forward, right? the reality is that what's coming at us is inevitable. And the faster we embrace it, the faster we rise to it, whether it's in the form of learning, reverse mentoring, right? Coaching one another, all that can only bring everyone within the workforce moving forward. Yeah. So we do that. We don't call it reverse mentoring, but we bring people together when we discuss technologies and how we would apply it. We look at how we're doing things today, and we look at how might it be different tomorrow. Yeah. And no doubt there will be certain concerns around, would I be displaced, right? Would I be out of jobs and stuff like that? And we want to tell people that, hey, come along in this wave of where the technology is heading. And therefore, it comes in our programs around learning. We're huge advocates of what we call technology quotient, which is a curriculum that Accenture provides, covering topics like TQ, agentic AI, yeah, among others. And we advocate everyone to get on board, to learn, and to reimagine how might their roles shift in the coming future.
Some really great insights and a really good lead into our next topic. So our next topic is actually about AI and age. So we're going to deep dive a little bit more into, you know, this whole concept that you were raising around not everyone feels equally confident using AI. So AI is transforming our work. But as you said, the younger generation is feeling a lot more confident in using AI. But then you're impacted straight over the top of that with the whole concept of people's comfort with change and how important that is that we reframe change. So while AI is transforming our work, let's actually talk now about bridging the digital fluency divide across the generations that you mentioned just there for us. I might throw to Linda for this one. Linda, have you observed generational differences in how employees trust or adopt AI in daily workflows?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are generational differences in how our employees trust and adopt the AI tools in their workflow. So the younger generations, such as millennials or Gen Z, they are more inclined or they are more fast in embrace such new technology. They view this as a kind of integral part of their work and even their relationships. While for the elder generations, they may require longer time. So they want to make sure it's safe, it's following the policies, it's ethical. And so anything, what's the implications to the job, to our clients, so to job security or even. So all this, we did see a kind of different trend. But we also find that AI adoption, it's less about age, actually. It's more about mindset people have. So regardless of generation, AI is anyway enhancing the productivity or even help us in decision making. So when we are more open and it's more easier to integrate these new technologies in our workforce. So in UI/GDS, as a professional services firm, we focus on building the trust, embedding the transparency into our AI solutions. So this includes how AI tools works, how the data is relied on. There are a lot of training sessions, a lot of workshops. Actually, in the last 1 year in UI/GDS, we have conducted large-scale AI training to help our employees understand how to use it benefits our work and our clients.
And so Linda, I have a question for you, and sorry
yes.
to jump in there. So you made a really important point there around actually it's less about age and it's more about mindset, right? So, but I want to ask you, in the example that you just gave around, you know, what you're doing to I suppose, embed more AI and using technology, for improvements, etc., in your organisation. Have you seen in the generations, though, more trust or differences in mindset, right? Or groups that have got a different mindset around the AI generally around their ages? Or are you saying it's kind of more spread out?
As I said, eventually we find it's not about age. It's about mindset, the confidence, how much we know and understand this. So for the young generations, they are born that way. So they have grown up in all these digital worlds, social networks, big data, and all that. For those experienced, so they want to exercise more or learn things from experiencing. They want to do it before they want to say, yes, this works for me. I want to talk about within talent function, what we did. So actually we started adopt AI in our learning and development. And for all the learning courses, we are using AI intelligence to curate based on the individual needs. So it's not going to be a wholesale. So everybody, you get this training. No, for employees, we will be able to, based on our experiences, sectors, functions, years with organizations, we are being recommended what are the courses might best fit us. And the training also is, our training platform is also built on the lot of database which forecast the future skill needs or the skill gap, where as an organization, what we want to equip our employees with the new skills, new technologies. That plays a major part of the learning journey for each and every individual in the company. So again, back to the topic, it doesn't matter which age you are at this moment. You might be at your mid or late stage of your career. You might be in the earlier. But as to utilizing the AI and as a company or as a HR, how we encourage and equip our people with a new skill set, it's the same. We are not differentiating that. Actually, we want to hear the different feedback from different age group so that we can integrate that into a powerful enabling platform to get our people quickly master this new technology.
So fantastic, Linda. Some really some practical and thoughtful insights around bridging that digital fluency across the generations, but really calling out, and I think this is what you said earlier, the younger generations were born into it, while the other generations are needing to learn it, and then how you adjust that becomes really, really important. I'm going to throw a question to the other panelists and yourself. So for mid to late career employees that we've talked about, it's the openness that we've said, but we also know that there are some mid to late career people which they find that AI sort of almost threatens their relevance or value, or they can feel that. How can AI extend relevance and value for the mid to late career employees from your perspective? And I might throw Linda, Marcus, Yati, whoever would like to kind of address this one, but it's really around how AI for that generation can extend the relevance rather than accelerate a feeling of obsolescence.
I just want to quickly call it out. I like this particular saying. I think I heard my my leader saying that AI is not to replace expertise, it's amplifying it. So I really love this statement. I totally agree with that. The people who accumulated through the years of experiences, their domain knowledge, when it combined with AI insight, it will create very powerful decision-making capabilities. So the wisdom from experiences combined with new technology, it will just help everybody get there. So I really, myself might be in the middle age or mid stage of the career, but I am so optimistic with the development of the AI, and I look forward to it. I hope my colleagues, my teammates have the same kind of aspiration.
So Marcus, can I ask you a question just based on that? Like in the earlier conversation, you talked about leadership and return on investment, right? And now, Linda, you're talking about kind of the wisdom of experiences plus the expertise, you know, will amplify kind of the return on investment. And Linda, one of the things that you commented was how important that message was, because it would be obviously reinforcing for people that are in mid to late careers, some who may not have necessarily the confidence that you have, for example, around AI and how great it is. Marcus and Yati, question for you. Where have you seen leaders in your workplace be able to spend those messages and this whole concept of ROI that can actually show and reinforce expertise of those from the kind of the mid to late career? So any comments, any thoughts from your experiences?
Okay. Do you want me to go first, Yati, or you want to go first?
Sure. Go ahead, Marcus. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. No, first of all, I think, I really second what Yati and Linda mentioned. As much as we have developed all the different courses for the different leadership and the different level of leaders as well as employees to understand about AI, so far we have not labeled it as a TQ, Yati, but I think I will use that one as a TQ. Very good one. Back to the point is that, like what Linda mentioned in terms of amplifying, which is very true, because as many articles talking about, if you see even articles from 2023 to now, previously they talk about 87 million jobs will disappear. But 80 plus million jobs will disappear, right, because of AI. But nobody talked the additional 97 million jobs that are being created until 2030 at the same time. And if you see the list that was created when AI was launched in 2023, even some of those roles, I think, need to be rewrite in terms of their job descriptions. For example, the data analyst, right? Maybe even the AI creator now is already left the Google, right? To take his own break. Never imagine that the data analysis is so powerful. That's why the job nothing need to be rewrite, for example. So for me, actually, listening to all the development of AI, for me, you think that not only that we need to look into the generation synergy, but I think for me, human resources, the R will become like maybe revolution. It's more like a human revolutions more and more, because the world is getting smaller and everything is almost in our fingertips. And to encourage the leaders actually to adapt that and to feel that they need to catch up with that and to create this synergy with the young generations, as simple as we put them in related to their KPI. See, if we just now Yati also mentioned about reverse mentoring, right? So yeah, we don't use that term reverse mentoring, but we put it as applications to share with the leaders, especially the senior leaders, because if you can reach your KPI faster by 1 year rather than 3 years, don't you want to do it? Don't you want to achieve it? With the help of these tools, with this kind of new AI thing that is very disruptive, and also with the help of your younger teams. So that's why in terms of the courses, we also implement similar like what Linda mentioned. We train for the different business units, different also functions. And now we not only the 101, we're also looking into what is next in terms of the actual implementation across the different levels and the different generations that we have in the corporations.
Thank you for that, Marcus. Really some powerful examples around how you can actually utilize this to drive kind of better outcomes. Just before we move on to the next topic, Yati, any thoughts or things to add from your perspective?
I think if we're discussing ROI, right, and ROI comes in tangibles as well as intangibles. I think at the end of the day, we look back at ourselves as HR professionals. The reality is that AI is not just changing, it's literally transforming. And we're really talking about transformation in its truest sense. I'll give a very simple example. Accenture, we do a lot of surveys, right? Because we want to understand the pulse point of our employees. So we engage with companies like Gallup, for instance, and we also have our own internal surveys. Gone are the days where we would eyeball data and try to manually categorize it, right? Because we would have 6,000 lines of verbatim input from our employees, and Copilot could essentially synthesize it in 5 to 10 minutes, right? If your prompt is especially clever, right? You can get the essence of the feedback from employees within minutes, right? And that is so much work saved, right? What used to take us days as HR professionals, and I'm not sure if Linda and Marcus can remember some of the things that we had to do in terms of looking at data, analyzing it. A lot of that work is being compressed and made easy by AI, right? And the ROI that comes to my mind is in terms of longevity of the career of HR professionals, right? We are no longer bogged down by what we call grunt work. We now can take those insights from analytics, from the data that we now have to have elevated conversations with our stakeholders, right? What is even more exciting is that even HR professionals now not just have a seat at the exco table, we would even be working with clients because clients would also want to know, how do you apply AI in your day-to-day work as a HR professional, right? And we have these discussions around best practices, how are we applying those technologies? So those ROI are coming in multiple angles, right? Because as HR professionals, we now know that we have a far greater opportunity to create an impact, to deliver value, and also for us to grow and retain our relevance uh, in our own careers.
So really fantastic to hear this conversation, Yati, as well. And I know, Marcus, you've raised ROI as well. It shows a real shift. If I go back and now I'm giving away which generation I'm from, but anyway, if I go back when I started my HR career, maybe now 30 so years ago, the conversation was always around almost the operational impacts or the grunt work, all of those things that sort of sit underneath. The ability to shift and move beyond that to start to talk around strategic HR, which is what we're talking about here, which is HR that's able to drive performance, that's able to drive outcomes for a business rather than just the churn, is a really exciting development, I believe, that, again, as you say, really has been driven, and I think all of you have talked about this, really been driven by some of the technological advances that we have, but it's the ability to be able to utilise those advances, I think a little bit like Linda talked about earlier, and utilise it to help drive decision-making, to drive out evidence-based human resource initiatives or even just organisational initiatives that's making a real difference. Fantastic conversation, and I think we could probably talk about AI quite specifically and kind of the different generations probably for a couple of hours between all of us with such rich experience that I'm hearing. I'm going to turn a little bit the thing on its head, I suppose, a little bit. Back to you, though, again, Yati, for this one. This is really talking about a little bit more of a deep dive into the multi-generational workforce. Now, with 5 generations in the workplace. Now, if you think about it, if you think about all of the studies and the previous workforce analytics around demographics, etc., it's the first time really with the health and longevity of how long people live for and how long they stay in the workplace and all of those things. First time that we've actually got 5 generations all in the workplace. And I know each of you talked about how that plays out for your organization. But age can be a source of tension, or as we've discussed and Marcus raised really early on, you know, it can drive performance and outcomes and ROI if it's a source of generational synergy. So this shift to generational synergy. So what we're going to do now is really shift a little bit, less about AI now and more about collaboration, right? Let's explore how to build collaboration across the age spectrum. And I'm going to start with you, Yati. The first question, and we all know that from a performance perspective and an influence perspective, there is nobody like the leaders that can actually make a shift. How has your leadership team evolved its style to engage with different generations effectively?
Well, I think if we look at how do leaders engage and collaborate, the tools remain somewhat similar, right? So Accenture is close to about 800,000 people right now, right? And we have leaders all across the globe. We have people all across the globe. We still have regular town halls. We still have regular um, engagement, dialogue sessions, right? But how we're doing it is a bit different now. And I have to say, there is a shift. There is now a shift to make it a bit more intimate, a bit more, how shall we say it, definitely more engaging. So we are seeing more sessions in the office, right? We want to bring people back because I am a big fan of in-person interactions, right? Because we get so much in terms of connection, in terms of understanding one another when we actually meet face to face. Yeah. So that is definitely one of it. So we're seeing more events taking place in the office. And these events could well be dialogue sessions, it could be certain programs that we run. And I'll quote one interesting program, and this is something that I am a fan of. In Accenture, we recently kicked off a program called Mano Warriors, right? So the name is quite jazzy. What it stands for is actually to cultivate understanding, awareness around menopausal and perimenopausal symptoms, because we recognize that the female employees that we have in our workforce are going through this stage in their lives, right? And we're seeing people as young as late 30s or even mid 30s experiencing those symptoms, and it is taking a toll. It's taking a toll on their health, on their productivity, on their ability to make certain decisions, right? So we bring in experts and panels to have conversations around that. And we open it up to people to ask questions. We have tools to make sure people can submit queries anonymously, right? And that's just one of the topics that we talk about. So it's having that engagement, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, but opening up willingness to discuss topics that previously would not take center stage in the workplace. Yeah.
So interesting points you're making there also around how now there's the tailoring, I suppose, of communications messages and approaches so that you've got more interactive and different methods that might engage different people in the workforce generally. I'm going to throw a question to, I think maybe Marcus for this one, or Linda, you might, whoever wants to jump in for this one. Now, we've talked about, you know, the evolving styles, which are more intimate, which are more engaging, etc. But can you share a moment in your organisations where sort of the multi-generation collaboration sparked unexpected innovation or impact? It goes to that kind of almost the ROI or the outcomes.
I will let the lady first this time, Linda.
Okay. So,
all right, over to you.
Yeah. So in EY, in GDS, we always have this inclusiveness. So actually, this is part of our value, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. So here, when it comes to the different generations, inclusiveness makes a difference. So now we don't have 5 generations, but we have 4 at the moment. So how to make sure all the 4 generations contribute equally and demonstrate their unique strengths. This is very important, and we enable that through being inclusiveness, especially from the leadership as well as from everybody in the organization. I want to share this one practices has been in EY in the last 1 year. Honestly, I don't know which service line, which country it originated from, but it has been spread across EY, and I myself find it so useful, and many of my colleagues do the same. So we call it all-in moment. So though EY recently launched our all-in strategy, but this all-in moment is something that small action with big impact to create a more inclusive and equitable experiences. It works this way. So all-in moment is in team meetings. It might take 5 minutes or less. When the team will build such small but powerful prompts or nudges into the meeting. It can be at the start of the meeting or at the start of the discussion, we invite those who usually speak less, or at junior ranks, or may not be attract a lot of intentions. We might invite them to speak first, or those newly joined team members or people with different backgrounds. So anyway, we make it a systematic or check-in point in the start of the conversation or discussion. Of course, we give them advance notification. They are not caught in surprise. They prepare. This is the all-in moment. Is one of the example. Another example, at the closing end of the meeting, we can also ask a few questions like, have we heard from everyone? Or what would someone who don't agree with us say? So these few questions, we also allocate a few minutes before we finish the meeting, and then we ask. So this kind of the all-in moment in the meeting.
So Linda, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Quick question for you.
Sure.
Okay. So you're introducing these mechanisms, and I'm going to call them intentional inclusiveness, right? So
exactly.
You're actually intentionally trying to get everybody, and as a mechanism from a way or a practice that you do in the workplace. Can you tell me about something that has come unexpected, right? So you're doing those. And sometimes the people that don't usually speak or that don't, may not contribute, how has that changed outcomes? Or is there an example you can give us where something amazing has happened as a result?
I'm not going to give you specific this scenario, but as HR, we do have a lot of employee connections, right? Recently, during one of the connection, there's an employee talking about his experiences with in Philippines, we have this, in office, we have this sleeping quarter. So where employee might want to have a rest if they take a night shift. So they talked about, I experienced this matter last week and I want to let you know. So it caught me, I never thought of that. So that's, to me, it might be a common thing, but to him, he feels he's being hurt, is uncomfortable. So that is a good kind of opens a window for me to understand what's in the mind of those who are 20 years younger than me. They use these services and it comes to them. So with that feedback and takeaway, I discussed with our admin leaders, and we changed the process of using the room, and we make some communication. So that helps to improve the satisfaction.
So really good, some outcomes. Fantastic.
Right.
Now, I'm going to ask a quick question now. I'm going to throw this one to you, Marcus, so you can smile. And I will actually ask a comment from each of you. We've just had a conversation, and if I take away the themes and insights around what I was hearing from each of you, you were all basically saying that really building collaboration across the age spectrum is the same as building inclusiveness across the generation and engagement. You just have to be intentional about it and put the mechanisms in. If I think about some of the things that you're talking about there. Now, Marcus, starting with you, do you believe that in 20 years, generations will still matter at work? Or will we shift towards interest tribes or values-based clusters? Now, this goes, if I go back a little bit here, it goes back to some of the discussions we were talking about, which is, you know, even when we were talking about AI and the adoption of AI, it wasn't about, it wasn't really around age, it was really around mindset. Do you believe in 20 years' time, generations will still matter at work, or is it going to be something else?
Very interesting question. Maybe I will touch into two areas. One is the generic, which generic means in the big cities, and then the other one is more on the remote locations. Because I'm just, when you ask that questions, I'm visualizing my own self. Yes, we exist in the modern cities, but many of our employees actually are in the remote locations, where we cannot change that remote locations into big cities because they are forestry and plantation for us. And of course, in terms of generationals, I think you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? I believe not 20 years, perhaps even like 5, 10 years, like what Linda mentioned in the Gen Alpha. The diversity, I think we don't talk anymore about gender. I don't think it will be too focused anymore. Not for sure the rest, like the normal diversity, like race, religion, those kind of things. I believe the HR will be busy with diversity in terms of generational, how to continue to build the bridge and the collaboration. Because that one still with, I cannot imagine when AI become a teenager. Now it's only a toddler, right? I don't know what they can do. See? And of course, for our remote locations, generation will still be there. The challenge that we face as a HR in plantation and forestry practically is that how we develop the future talent that we need that do not lag behind as well. Because when you go to the remote locations, the education system, everything also need the support from corporation. So we need to really create another community co-creation synergy with the different schools, the different government that we exist, and different provincial government as well, on how to make sure that their new generation, next generations, will not lag behind, because we still need people to work there. Everything cannot be robot. There is no robot so far that can take fruits from a 15 meters tree, right? And I think it's very difficult on that to build that, and very expensive. So I think it will still be there, but I think our role as a HR we'll need to think to the bigger community on how do we enlarge their capacity and capabilities as well as the technology, the digitalizations, the AI, whatever terms evolve faster than we can think of and imagine. That's my thought.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So still there, but there will be some differences in terms of how we address it. Yati, your views?
I agree with Marcus. I think it will still remain relevant, especially in certain cultures and societies, right? In the East, right, where we're at. Concepts around respecting elders is still very important and relevant. I think that will continue to remain evergreen, right? But of course, when we're in the workplace, mindset, values, the way we interpret policies and whatnot, that will anchor us. And I think as long as we are guided by those universal values and principles, we can manage some of the differences in the intergenerational differences, any friction that might occur, right? And the other thing that struck my mind is that in an organization where the purpose is clear, right? People will come and respond to it in a variety of different ways. But at the end of the day, as long as we are anchored around shared goals, shared purpose, I think a lot of these differences will not become an issue, right? We might be different in terms of how we do certain things. Obviously, we want everyone to adopt technology so that so that all of us can move at the same pace, a faster pace. But at the end of the day, it's recognizing that different generations bring across different strengths. I would still go to a senior member within my workforce and ask, I'm having this problem right now. Have you encountered something similar, and how did you overcome it? Obviously, the variables are different. The players within that drama will be different, right? But at the end of the day, being reminded around certain concepts and principles around problem solving, how might we think, not just, it's no longer about outside the box, right? Sometimes the box no longer exists because we're in a completely different playing field. Having those conversations, it really elevates our thinking, right? And we might even arrive at a better decision that could not have come across if I were to try and solve it by myself or with my like-minded community who probably thinks the same way that I do.
So I'm going to make you smile here now. If you have a look at all of the research, so and all the research around inclusion, it says difference of thinking and experience means, and the collaborations of different thinking and experience comes together to drive organizational performance and outcomes and innovation. What a wonderful way, I suppose, to end our webinar today. But before we go, I might actually just open up the floor to questions from our audience. So if you've got any questions, if you would like to put them into the chat, anything that you'd like to hear a little bit more about, or have a question to our very fantastic and wonderfully experienced panel here to add on to the rich discussion. Any questions that the group might have? Okay. All right, I'm going to throw this this is your last chance to kind of share your insights and experience. What's one bold shift you believe every HR leader in Asia must make in the next 5 years to prepare for the multi-generational AI-powered workforce of tomorrow? Who'd like to go first?
I'll take a stab at it. I think the call to action for all HR professionals is to rethink and redesign our work models, right? Because if we look at how we do things, and the typical pyramid would still apply. We have the junior levels that very much transaction oriented, and then we have the apex of the pyramid that's a bit more strategic decision making. The reality is that when it comes to automation, where AI will become more relevant, it's going to hollow out. And this is one of the recurring phrases that I'm hearing, the hollowing out of the work pyramid, because AI, automation, and the like will start to become more center stage in transactional work, right? If it's not just transactional anymore, it is now able to apply certain reasoning and make clever suggestions around what might be options and next steps. So it's really about how do we redesign the work that we do, right? It's no longer just about looking at data after data, but it's also having more rich conversations with different parts of the organization, different stakeholders, maybe even bringing HR into the boardroom with clients, right? So that we can hear what do they need in terms of talent, right? What kind of talent do they value? What kind of solutions are they looking for? Because at the end of the day, we have to turn back and look at our workforce and decide what new capabilities are required, right? It's really that game will not change, because as HR, we are the custodians of talent strategy, talent implementation, and making sure that our people remain relevant throughout their entire careers. And that will require that they learn, relearn, unlearn what they've used to do, and create new personas for themselves to become more relevant.
Fantastic. So you're putting a call out there to all HR professionals: be ready, be bold, and make sure that you're redesigning the work that's being done. Okay, Marcus, what is one bold shift you believe every HR leader in Asia must make in the next 5 years?
I totally agree with Yati. I just need to compliment. I think to fill that hollow, I've been thinking AI for AI means the AI is we need to create an employee or a community practically, which is external as well, always inquisitive, because otherwise people, my biggest worry personally, AI make people a bit downgraded. My thinking is become stupid, but I think that one is not a polite word to be used here. But anyway, is if you don't always have this always inquisitive mindset, and HR provide that platform and generate that environment and culture, I think HR will have not do justice to the organization. To continue the organization to be able to sustain and develop their talent to be able to compete and bring the company to always grow their EBITDA and whatever target that they have. See, so always inquisitive mindset and environment is that HR has to create. I think it's a big challenge, which currently I don't know how to create it, but will be part of the strategic thinking for the next few years that I need to develop with the team globally as well.
Amazing, amazing, Marcus.
Yeah.
So this inquisitive mindset and communities and environment needs to be built so you can take AI, right, with its benefits, so actually to maximize its benefits. Okay, over to you, Linda. One bold shift you believe?
Yeah, I would not say it's shift, but it's something we got to never shift. It's putting the human in the center of everything we do. So it's only possible with that we can explore, navigate all these uncertainties, and as HR, as an organization, with our employees as well, to get to that bright future. So human is everything we have to be centered around.
Fantastic. What a wonderful way to really start to round off our discussion. So I'm sure everybody will agree with me. What a wonderful conversation from three very insightful HR leaders across Asia. I want to thank you, Yati, Linda and Marcus, for all of your insights today. Yati from Sedcha, Malaysia, Linda from EYGDS in the Philippines, and Marcus, Chief HR Officer at Sinar Mas Agribusiness and Food Indonesia. Thank you very much for your insights today. Now, I might want to just end today's session just saying that today's conversation really highlighted the urgency and opportunity in reimagining HR for a future shaped by ageing, AI and generational diversity. We've heard from our panel today that there's a call to redesign the work that we do. There is a need for inquisitive mindsets and communities to be built to take AI with its benefits, but we must not forget that the human must be the centre of everything we do. Some key insights that from our leaders here today. One, when we're talking about the longevity shift, remember now that it's a move away from generational gaps, but to generational synergies, the importance of doing that, the importance of looking at ROI, tangible and intangibles to transform the workplace. We've talked about tools for the multi-generational workforce and the shift to a more intimate and engaging workplace. We heard many examples from our panel in relation to this, but we also talked about inclusiveness, the importance of inclusiveness from leaders and in terms of how we do business, so that can get us to that intentional inclusiveness, which brings in the generations and what they need and treats people as individuals. One of the things I do want to say is we hope that we've left you inspired to lead boldly and inclusively. I'm really pleased to say we've had about 150 people join us from across Asia to hear these insights. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to our panel once again, and a big thank you to FutureHR and HR Asia for facilitating this conversation. Until next time.
Thank you, sharing.
Until next time, I will say this. We hope that you rethink HR before the future HR rethinks you. Bye from us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Lauren.
the sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.